Our first match for Super Sunday here at Week 3 of the Hearthstone Grandmasters will be Rase versus Zalae, a warrior versus rogue. Rase on the warrior, Zalae on the rogue. And this matchup has evolved a lot over the past week and a half since the nerfs to all of the cards that happened very recently. And I am personally looking forward to see how if Zalae's strategy can adapt and see if he, for this match, can maybe fix history a little bit from his perspective, because last time Zalae went against a warrior, he had a super greedy package that didn't pan out, largely because the warrior was rushing the rogue down, which is very interesting to see.
Yeah, it was kind of funny, and even Strife Crow tweeted out Zalae should put Mountain Giant in his rogue deck because he always holds all of his cards.
Yeah, he was playing hand rogue.
Yeah, which was really funny, and that's kind of just the way his rogue is teched in his tertiary deck, which seems to be his anti-warrior deck with Barista Lynchin, Grawl the Shark, Harrison Jones, and Geppetto Joybuzz. Very different style of rogue that we're used to seeing with all these tempo tools. It's sweet, but it's also really slow. Now, he's going to be going up against Rase, who's playing that Bomb Warrior, but let's go ahead and highlight Zalae's deck first. He's playing the very value-oriented, as Hunter Race has dubbed it, Water Rogue, because of the ocean-ish theme with Sea Giant, Spear of the Shark.
Yeah, and Grawl the Shark, sometimes making an appearance there as well. Water Rogue is often also largely a very proper name for this deck, too, because water in itself, TJ, is formless, and it kind of adapts to whatever the container that it's put in. And with the same way, in the same vein, this rogue deck often is adapting to how the game state is evolving based off of, you know, what you're bouncing back with Waggle Pick, if you're trying to be aggressive, or you're trying to be more value-oriented, or maybe if you try to go really slow and play a controlling style, which we've seen some players choose to do.
Yeah, it's a very interesting deck list. It's so, from game to game, it looks so different. Like sometimes it'll just make a giant Edwin Van Cleef on turn 5 and a 34-34 perhaps, and you'll kill your opponent. And then sometimes you have these long, grindy games where you're getting all of these weird resources from Hench Clan Burglar and from Blink Fox, and you sneak out victories. It's so bizarre, it's kind of a fun deck to watch.
I think so. And then he's going up against a Race's deck that's going to be most likely just being straightforward, shuffling bombs, controlling the board, and finding any which way to shut off Rogue from snowballing out of control. We've been seeing a lot of the Warriors play fairly aggressively, and we yesterday discussed about the merits of perhaps even just saying that Bomb Warrior isn't really controlling at all unless it needs to. It tends to play a much more mid-range style, and I think this matchup is one of the first cases and examples for exactly that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree, and it's kind of interesting because this rogue deck is not that aggressive, right? Zalae doesn't even run preps, he doesn't run eviscerates, he runs Leroy Jenkins, and he runs Waggle Pick, so he has that late game form of burst damage. But in the early game, he's going to be playing 1/1s, 2-mana 1/1s with Evil Kid Rat Novice Engineer. He's going to be playing Evil Miscreants. He's going to be trying to accrue value from these generation cards and then use it in the mid game to snowball and to solidify a lead. Now, the vulnerability to that plan is if Rase has a decent early start and Zalae has to kind of play reactively and Rase the one dictating the pace of the game, Rogue does not have great ways to heal. They have Life Drinker, they have Ziliax, but stabilizing their life total is hard, and they oftentimes have to use Waggle Pick and Dagger Up early on to take additional damage to ensure that they get ahead on board. So you shuffle a bunch of bombs in their deck, you deal some damage early on with Clockwork Goblins, with Reg Calibers, you find Blastmaster Boom, and that's the way we've seen Warriors win.
Yeah, and I think the Warriors able to wrestle back that board state from the Rogues will allow them to be able to feel, well, one, they don't have to worry about dying at any point in time. You know, there's that dangerous critical health range of which Rogue can maybe burst out of nowhere. But two, be able to put the Rogue in a situation where they have to spend their mana removing and playing defensive. And it's funny because I feel like when I'm the Rogue and I have a Shark and I have to use my tools defensively, it feels really bad because then I'm just using my Shark to catch up and then maybe equalize
Yeah.
The warrior can just take initiative right back. And I was playing a game earlier today, TJ, up against Mech Hunter, and it was kind of the same thing. Like, I had to use a shark to catch up every single time. And then it was just presenting another threat that I didn't have like the right removal because I'm playing like Blink Fox and Hedge Clan Burglar, and it's not like the clean removal I look for.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of removal in the deck. No saps, no eviscerates for Zalae. It's just all like minions. Like backstab early on is the removal. That's it. And Vendetta. Vendetta needs activation, obviously, so it's not as reliable of removal as, say, Eviscerate or as Backstab. But Zalae finds it early, has the answer to, say, Clockwork Goblin or Augmented Elec. But Rase just kind of happy to keep this game slow for himself, gets Wrench Caliber. One bomb in the deck.
Yeah, I think having the bombs early is going to disrupt the plan as the game goes on. But for now, setting up the weapon to disrupt Zalae's tempo is more important because most of the things that he can play are around 3 life. That is an important breakpoint. It's, you know, that's actually been the case for Rogue for a while. It was like when Valdori Strider was in the meta, it was like 4 health was kind of the breakpoint. But now with that gone, it's mainly the 3 health minions that are problematic.
Yeah, SI7 Agent, Life Drinker, Spirit of the Shark, Blink Fox, Hench Clan Burglar, all 3/3s, or all 3 health, sorry, not 3/3s.
Yeah, and that's why Dustbreaker for a while was so powerful, just because it could answer cards like that in the metagame.
Yeah. Tough choice here from Zalae right off the bat. Witchwood Apple, probably not that great, so I think it's between Holy Nova and Mortal Coil. Mortal Coil might be hard to get value with. He could use it to like cycle one of his own lackeys. Wow, he chose, okay. He completely proved me wrong. Said Witchwood Apple is the one that I want. I feel like that's the hardest one to use.
I do think that Zalae, well, maybe he did put Mountain Giants in his deck and we're not paying attention. But for Zalae, I think he just wants to be able to get these combo activators and cards out of his hand, and also, more importantly, just have better proactive plays. So I think the Witchwood Apple is okay. Especially if he wants to like take it even slower and play like SI7 Agent the next turn. But it does beg a question of like, you know, what happens if he picks up an Evil Miscreant and like he has a Spear of the Shark?
Yeah,
how's he gonna ever like fit in the mana efficient plays before Warrior's just like, well, you're not really doing much here.
That was my reason behind it. I look at his hand and I said, well, there's a lot of, he already has a lot of situational cards in hand. Like he already has so many cards that it's gonna be hard for him to dump. Witchwood Apple adds 3 more cards that are difficult for him to dump. The benefit of Witchwood Apple is that not only is Witchwood Apple a good combo activator, but a 2-mana Treant is also a good combo activator. So I think what Zalae's thinking here is that, hey, if I pick up Witchwood Apple, I have combo activators for the rest of the game. And I have a minion to play on board for essentially the rest of the game. At least that's my interpretation of it. He may have just said Holy Nova and Mortal Coil, they suck. Which I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
I wonder.
just having proactive plays, I think, is really good. And that's definitely more the Zalae school of ideology when it comes to Hearthstone. Play your stuff so it's in play. Hit him in the face so that he's dead.
Yeah. I personally would have chosen Mortal Coil. Just because it also is a combo activator that is straight up damage, and I would, if you had to choose like between I want to have a random card in my deck that costs 1 more mana, or a Witchwood Apple, I would say a random card in my deck that costs 1 more mana.
These next 2 turns are going to be fairly crucial for Zalae and why he's taking a lot of time. Oh wow, that Harrison draw.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well,
that belongs in a museum.
That stings a lot because Zalae was setting us this Wacko pick to do bigger damage in the future, but the reason why the next 2 turns are important is because turn 6 is often a weak point in the Warrior deck. In fact, they don't really run 6-mana cards. And then 7 is when they hit power spikes when they're, for example, able to play Dr. Boom at Genius, or maybe just Dr. Boom in his final form with the Boombots. And so Zalae gets the time to set up before that, but if Rase presents threats proactively, again, he's using things like Vendetta to climb back onto the board as opposed to using it to push damage and keep his board safe.
Yes.
So a second Waggle pick is acquired here from Zalae. That's still an okay draw, but the thing is, he wanted to spend his 6 mana developing behind that Waggle Pig, and right now, it seems like his best play is to play one minion at best, you know, to develop ahead of time. And that's scary with the proposition that your opponent could just play a Blastmaster Boom next turn, because there's 2 bombs shuffled in.
Yes.
Or 3, rather, excuse me. So then, if you're Zalae, what do you prioritize? Do you prioritize your own game plan and say, you know what, if he has it, he has the best cards to answer me with his Dr. Boom at Genius or Blastmaster? Or do you just fight reasonably here and try to prepare for the worst?
Gonna play some Treants.
Well, I guess I eat my words. You didn't play a minion, you played 2.
But
And it is actually better stats than just playing a Life Drinker or SI7 agent. I think Zalae found the best play here, but it's not exactly ideal by any means. Best does not mean good. When I say good, I mean it does not mean that it's going to correct or fix the situation.
yeah, when you have an empty hand as Warrior against Rogue, your best play is to armor up and press the end turn button. That's not a good play.
I can't disagree.
But that is the best play.
So now Rase, thinking if he has the comfort room to play Dr. Boom Mad Genius. This hero card is defining the way warriors interact in the late stages of the game. Very powerful. The caveat is that he has 1 mech in hand, and guess what? Zilliax already has Rush, so it's not like the battle cry is incredibly useful. Rase is just spending the mana now so that when he inevitably draws the mechs, and that's why maybe the Acolyte of Pain is a huge pickup here. When he does acquire the mechs, then he's going to be able to make these big comeback swings onto the board.
Yeah.
And we heard this a little bit from the players that were talking to us yesterday and the day before, that Acolyte of Pain seems to be an unsung hero of the warrior decks that people are cutting. And it feels like when you cut those Acolytes of Pain, you're stuck with whatever hand you're given a lot more than you'd like. You know, you don't have as much cycle. You have a shield block maybe, or perhaps the Town Crier can draw a rush minion. But the Acolyte of Pain is what really helps you play even more inefficiently with removal than you tend to be. Like, you can use Warpath on like 2 minions.
Yep.
Because you can have the removal afterwards and hope that Dr. Boom's passive and hero power catches you up.
Or you can couple those together. Play Acolyte of Pain and use Warpath, quote-unquote, inefficiently, because you're drawing 2 cards as well as removing a small board or what have you.
It gives you more flexibility. And I think when you are playing a defensive form of the Bomb Warrior, or defensive stance rather, you need to have that flexibility, because part of what makes it difficult for the Warrior in situations like this is that they have to line up their removal suboptimally. This is probably the optimal use of Shield Slam. There's going to be very few minions that are better than that.
So I'm going to say something here.
Well, I hope so. You're a caster.
I'm not going to say anything here.
Okay. Well, that's too bad.
No. We had just finished talking about Acolyte of Pain and Warpath, so maybe it's like sticking in my head. But that actually would have been a decent spot to play Acolyte of Pain plus double Warpath, because he had 8 mana available to him, so he can Acolyte, double Warpath, and Shield Slam, because he'd have enough armor at that point, because the Warpath would be hitting his Eternium Rover to Shield Slam. So he'd be left with a 1/1 Eternium Rover, a 1/1 Acolyte of Pain, and he would have drawn 2 extra cards.
Interesting. That's definitely pretty good speculation. It'd be full mana expenditure.
Full mana expenditure. Now, you'd expend a Warpath and a Shield Slam.
Right.
But I feel like the longer the warrior stays on the back foot, the easier it is for the rogue to gain back a foothold. And finding additional resources, I think, is more important than trying to play efficient. Now, this leaves him with a better proactive board, right? This Eternium Rover.
Sure.
But he's not as far into his deck, and if Zalae doesn't make a play this turn that plays into Warpath, then his Acolyte might be like slightly stranded.
I think it's, I completely understand your point. I think it's okay, though, because Acolyte of Pain and Warpath, you can only play Warpath 3 times, but the breakpoints for a lot of rogue minions are 3 health. Let's say they play Spear of the Shark and it's stealth. You use Acolyte of Pain and Warpath 3 times. So I think Rase is still prepared for that situation, and I do understand your merits. Oh, wow, hold on.
So Zalae drew a bomb, so I believe there's only 2 left.
It's still good damage.
It's still good damage. He can also fit in the Zap. So 4 Boombots, a 7/7, and a Zap against just a Waggle pick is a very nice amount of board development.
It's true. Alternatively, Rase also probably wants to utilize a weapons project to disrupt the waggle pick.
True.
So if he waggle picks, I don't think he wants to waste like the zap. I don't think he wants to play Dr. Boom just as is, because next turn he could Clockwork Goblin and then play Dr. Boom to shuffle into third bomb. But that doesn't mean necessarily that he just wants to throw out his Accolade of Pain. So this is one of the situations that goes back to what you were saying, TJ, is that he would like to have more flexibility of options. Had he drawn with his Accolade preemptively, maybe he could have just played a more normal minion to go behind this, or maybe he could have combined the Clockwork Goblin, along with the Augmented Elec that could have came into his hand as well.
Yeah.
So, these are just possibilities, and obviously I think given how the pan out is, Rase is generally like correct in I think 80% of the situations.
Yeah.
It would just be like the times where Zalae presents something that could be disrupted.
Yeah. He still has Accolade Pain Warpath to in his back pocket.
To reload.
Yep.
Which is, good. Sometimes it's ideal to empty the chamber first, TJ, before you reload. This is actually a tip for shooters. Like, say you're playing Overwatch. I see a lot of people reload way too often. And the idea is because you need to be situation prepared. And yes, it is good to have a full clip of ammo, but it is a resource costing time to reload. I know that we're not casting Overwatch by any means.
This is a multi-dimensional broadcast, Dan. Overwatch League is broadcast about 100 yards from where Dan and I are.
That's right. That far away?
I think so, yeah.
TJ, 100 yards is a football field.
Yeah, it is a football field away. You want to measure?
TJ, I'm pretty sure that I could get there in like 50 steps. We're very close. We are. They don't joke that we're in the closet of the Overwatch League for no reason.
No, I disagree. I think you're wrong. I think that's a misplay.
Oh man, wait till you hear what I have to say on Twitter about this, with screenshots, GIFs, and videos, and lots of enraged emojis. Rase has 10 damage, 12 damage. If every boom bite hits face for 4, it'd be an additional 12. Not quite there. I think his big concern is the Spear of the Shark.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, Zalae, of course, like, oh gosh, he's destroying me. But one thing that Zalae was trying to set up here was the Shark preemptively to go for a big Edwin. I know we've been kind of focusing on Race's plays for a bit, just to tune back into Zalae. That Spear of the Shark, Edwin Van Cleef, has been a big MVP for a lot of the rogue decks to basically pressure the warrior out of the game single-handedly. And, with Zalae's hand that's been very heavy, he hasn't had an opportunity to set up that big Van Cleef in retaliation.
Yeah.
And now it's too late. This is exactly what we're talking about. Race has needed to use the rush of the mechs about 1 or 2 times.
Yep.
It's really the fact that the Blastmaster Boom, Zalae has no answer to, and is taking way too much damage now.
Hasn't even drawn a lackey card yet.
I give up.
Yeah, that's going to be it for game number 1. I think the Race having good answers and proactive game plan, while Zalae had middling, like very mediocre hand.
Yeah.
Just gives Race a big advantage. And then from there, Zalae playing like a heavy, like play it slow game plan has just been pretty ineffective against the Warriors so far.
Yeah.
And I think the result kind of speaks for itself there. Zalae still going to look for his first win against the Warrior this week.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough now. Granted, Rase, like you mentioned, did have the answers early with shield slams, with Wrench Caliper, follow that up into both of the booms on 7 and 9 respectively. So that hand is pretty difficult to beat, but it also is kind of just a symptom of the way the deck list is built. Like you said, when you're playing slow like this and you don't have the ability to be proactive, you give the warrior too much time, and that's kind of it. Also, weapon removal for both waggle picks.
Yes, that was very brutal.
Yeah, not that waggle pick is a massive engine in this deck as it is in the raiding party pirate tempo rogue. But it still can give you a ton more value and can let you do those big power plays like Edwin, which he had in his hand at that point.
Yeah, the disruption was pretty severe there as Zalae, never able to get his momentum going, suffers his 3rd loss in a row against the Warriors. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to see if Zalae can switch to a different deck and maybe grab his first W, or will Rase press in and get a much-needed win in his division.
Dalaran will be ours! Once we land, you know what to do! out? You didn't tell us to play it. I didn't think I had to. It's perfectly obvious. Bank! I am to be robbing the bank! I take henchmen for vault smashing and shiny stealing! Plan is obvious! It's a start, yes, but...
You won't get a single coin unless you take care of the city's guards. Let's rip open Violet Hole and unleash the prisoners on the city. That'll keep the guards busy.
Certainly, but that's not...
No! First, we must sow chaos in the streets.
I got rockets. Anyone need rockets? Try to see the big picture. Shiny, shiny, shiny.
We have to break their will before we can loot, you fools!
Please, everyone, please.
Let's strap some rockets to the city.
Oh, big candle.
And then we just take the whole shebang wherever we want.
Yes! Finally, you're exactly right.
Seriously?
That's dumb.
Ah, weak candle.
Just wait till second gear kicks in.
It's just like I said. We're going to take Dalanat for all that it's got. It's a genius plan. It's simple. It should have been obvious. And absolutely nothing will go wrong.
So, genius, how do we land?
My name is Alexander Malsh. You might know me as Colento. My username Colento is kind of random. I just took it from the MMORPG I was playing. It was the name of one of my characters. My favorite moment in Hearthstone is probably when I won the Game House Cup. It was one of my first tournaments I won, and it probably was the first LAN I won, so it felt very special. So as for Grandmasters in general, I really like to play against people I know personally and I met before. I have respect for them. I think competing will be fun. Being in Grandmasters is a big honor. It's just a proof that I'm a part of best players in Hearthstone. It's not like I need it so much, I just know it myself, but it still feels kind of nice. I'll just perform well at Grandmaster League. I'll try to keep streaming, and I just want to spend the rest of my time having as much fun as I'm having doing my hobby.
Welcome everyone back to Super Sunday here at the Hearthstone Grandmasters. Zalae and Rase are going at it. Rase up 1-0 with the Warrior over the Rogue. We're going to see what decks these players have switched to. Now, Zalae with his tertiary deck has the Greed package, Barista Lynchant, which is a 5-mana 4/5 that gives you a copy of all the Battlecry minions that are on the field and add them to your hand. He also has Grawl the Shark, one of my favorite cards in Rogue class, just thematically and also power level. Battlecry, eat a minion in your deck and gain its stats. So let's say you eat the Barista, you become a 6/7, and then when it dies, you get a copy of it to your hand. So Greed packages like this from Zalae, we'll see if it comes into becomes a big factor here. And I think if I were to give unsolicited advice to Zalae that he does not need, which you know, very rarely does Zalae ever ask me for advice on anything Hearthstone related. In fact, that has never happened ever. Is that I would say to not necessarily focus on the Greed. I started evaluating Barista Lynchant because I started seeing other people climb to Legend with it. Like yesterday, I was watching Mr. Yagut play to Legend. And Barista Lynchant can often just look very similar to an Azure Drake back in the day. Azure Drake was a 5-mana 4/4 dragon that just simply drew a card and gave you one spell damage.
Yeah.
And if you use it if you just start analyzing in that lens where it's just, if you play it on curve and you just have it to give you one card, it keeps the snowball going. But this time, you get to control what card you get with the Barista Lynchant. So I've seen uses of that just on curve, TJ, and I'm very impressed with that card.
Yeah, it's it definitely has more use than just having this giant value turn where you barista back 5 cards.
I get baited into that all the time.
Yeah, and
I'm like, it's a tech card. I need it to be good. I need to prove its value.
Yeah, and that's that, like you said, kind of a misconception sometimes. And Zalae has to have the ability to fight for the board in this game, or Bomb Warrior can snowball, and then you're susceptible to bombs, especially because Zalae went for this more greedy, value-heavy rogue. He sacrificed Togwaggle Scheme, right? That's what we've seen other players do with this value-oriented rogue, is to put Togwaggle Scheme and card draw to be able to make those crazy Heist Baron Togwaggle plays in the late game. That's what Monsanto did in his matchup yesterday, where he was able to beat a warrior with his value rogue deck. And it also like kind of offsets bombs because you're shuffling more cards into your deck, so you're less likely to draw a bomb.
Speaking of shuffling bombs, 2 Clockwork Goblins come to the hand for Rase. That's obviously what he was setting up for with coining out the Augmented Elec, else he'd most likely just hero power and save that coin for a more impactful board swing. But when you can get ahead of your opponent like this, you generally go for it. Important to note too is that Zalae, I mean, you have to sacrifice when you put in cards. He's removing 2 Waggle Picks in that Sea Giant. Those are also great cards against Warrior.
Yeah.
You know, some may argue that you might want the Waggle Picks instead of just more Battlecry minions. But, you know, that's not necessarily how Zalae's deck list is built. So he's getting a stronger engine. But you still need to stay on the racetrack, TJ. If you're getting pushed off, your pit stops aren't going to be effective. I don't watch NASCAR, TJ. I don't know where I'm going with this. I need you to save me.
So what's funny is that people on social media and even in like conversations say, what are your most played games of all time? And it's always like, you know, World of Warcraft, RuneScape, whatever. Mine was Hearthstone's probably number 1. I don't think
just
even
in terms of sheer volume.
In terms of sheer volume. World of Warcraft would be number 2. Number 3 was like NASCAR 1999.
Like Forza? Oh, okay, yeah.
No, not like the NASCAR.
Oh.
Like the EA Sports NASCAR, whatever. I used to just sit down in my room and do a full-length NASCAR race. Not even like the truncated version, like you can do like short laps on the video games. You could even simulate it. I would sit down in my room and just jam a race around a circular track for 3 hours. And I loved it. And I would do that multiple times a day.
Wow.
So even though I've never watched a second of NASCAR on television,
you know how it works.
I know how it works.
And so you just let me hang right there by myself out the dry.
I mean, it was relatively accurate.
All right.
It was good enough.
Yeah, and good enough is a really good description of probably what Rase is doing in this position. Like the shield slam here, I completely agree with. Keep the 3/3s pressuring. It's good enough, and Zalae has to have that removal option. Funny enough, by the way, Zalae picked up like almost all Paladin options off his Hedge Clan Burglar. I don't think Kangor's obviously was anything good there. Blessing of Might is just nice combo material.
He had Holy Smite as well.
With 1 shield slam used, by the way, though, Zalae can go for Big Daddy Edwin. I mean, 1 Shadow Step in Novice Engineer is already chonky boy, but at this point,
my invention.
Well, ouch. That bomb is not what he wants to see. But Edwin comes out as, what, a 12-12?
Yes.
That's a lot. And Rase doesn't have a way to kill it.
He doesn't have a way to kill it, but he does have a way to kind of initiate a race. He could just... he could just Dino-matic, put some damage on the Edwin, and then push 6 to face. He's got 2 bombs in the deck. Then Zalae has to make the decision, well, do I push my 12 damage to face, or do I let him hit me with more minions?
So yeah, Rase could go for a defensive game plan, right? He could Dino-matic, and then maybe even start trading in with the Clockwork Goblins preemptively so that Warpath will take care of it the following turn. But it's like you said, this is an important branching path. TJ, there's two roads. 1, the aggressive game plan to pressure Zalae out of the game with 3 bombs in the deck, or 2 rather.
2.
Or to play defensive and try to hope that he can utilize cards like Omega Assembly to catch back up later. And of course, there is a halfway play of, you know, maybe he trades only 1 in.
I don't like trading any. He's out of cards in hand. He doesn't have anything that's good. Even if he trades in his minions, he takes the Warpath next turn, then what does he do after that? What does he do as a follow-up? whatever Zalae plays beyond that is just going to stick.
Right.
So I think he has to initiate an aggressive game plan, maybe find another Clockwork Goblin from Omega Assembly. Wrench Caliber would be fantastic.
Yep.
He's not dead. He's still very much alive.
So many.
Zalae does have a lot of burst in hand, though.
And, I mean, does Zalae have to trade in this spot?
Yeah, that's exactly why I like this board tension, because, yes, you can push 12, put Race down to 20, and develop, but then you're taking 9. You're dead to a Wrench Caliber.
You know, it is funny because Zalae has so many cards, it really does make me think about
So
Mountain Giant Link Sun
many
Fury Protector and how much he would just own Race in this spot.
I know.
It's just like good old classic hand rogue. And Zalae does have a couple options to maybe bail himself out. If Novice Engineer, for example, pulls out of Vendetta, he'll be in a pretty decent spot. Looks like he's going for an Evil Miscreant.
Woo!
Cobalt Lackey, Faceless Lackey.
So he's going to set up for a 2-turn lethal?
Is he going face?
So he's dead to a Wrench Caliber here.
Yep, dead to a Ziliax.
A bomb.
A-bomb.
He's dead to a decent amount of things.
But it's a 2-turn lethal. Oh, Race picks up a Town Crier.
He can get Ziliax.
Yes.
It's a 1 in 3 because he hasn't played a Militia Commander yet.
And that might be higher chances than Omega Assembly go for a magnetic minion to help him, because there are a handful of magnetic minions that can really be good here.
I don't think it's 1 in 3 though, especially to pick up one that costs 5 mana or less. That deals 2 damage. He would need Ziliax, War Gear.
Woo!
Woo!
And Race with a fast 2-0, late nodding. He knew the risk going into it, but in the end, I think it's right. You don't want to trade with a 12-12 Edwin. You want to go phase.
I mean, that's a 15 damage Edwin. So Zalae's saying, all right, I set up for nearly a guaranteed 2-turn lethal because you're probably not killing my Edwin and you are leaving a bunch of damage up on board.
Yeah.
And if you kill my Edwin, you're trading in your board. So I lose to Wrench Caliber or Ziliax or a Mega Assembly into a thing. So he's saying you have 1 turn to find one of those cards, or me to draw a bomb, or you're dead.
I mean, there was a halfway play that Zalae could try to go for. He had a Weapons Project to gain a little bit of life.
Okay.
And then he could have gone Weapons Project into Evil Miscreant and then played the 2 lackeys. He wouldn't have the 3 damage from the Blessing of Might, but maybe that was an opportunity for him to stay alive a little bit to the burst. I don't think it'd matter that much, though, because I think Race would obviously have 2 damage right there, and then the Ziliax would make up the 3 more of that armor that it gained. So I have to go back and look at the health totals, but that was something I just thought of right now. The whole point, though, is that Zalae was in a tough spot regardless of what happened, because he'd still be vulnerable to die either way.
Yep.
And Race, recognizing that, you know what? Maybe you just play a little bit more aggressive as opposed to the slow warrior. And when life serves you bombs, you definitely...
You eat them. Wait.
Well,
That's not how it is.
You
make
shuffle.
bomb-nade.
Let's talk to Race. He's on the line. Race, are you there?
Hey guys, what's up? Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. 2-0, very smooth. Did you feel like it'd be going like that against Zalae, whether in practice or today?
Yeah, I practiced a few matchups with Nalgida, and we felt like Warrior was favored against this rogue because we need to play it aggressively, and this rogue is more about value. They cut cards like Eviscerate and stuff like that, so if I can go on board and play it aggressively, I think I'm really favored. So I was confident. I think I drew well, and I'm happy now.
Good, awesome. So now that 3 weeks are done here, because you finished up your matches for the 3rd week at Grandmasters, how do you feel about your level of play and kind of how things have developed so far at Grandmasters?
Yeah, I'm trying to improve every week. I'm 3-3 at the moment. Like every week I'm winning one and losing another. Not bad, not that good. It's pretty hard. Like the best players of the world are here, so I'm happy with this 3-3. But I wish I can do better over the next week. So I will try to improve. Some buffs are coming. The meta will change a lot, and let's see how I can handle with it. Hope it works well for me.
Do you think that kind of environment favors your skill set? Do you get more results, you think, when metas are unsolved and you have to figure out what's the best very quickly? Or do you feel like you're better once you start getting the pieces together and you can find refinement where other players don't?
Yeah, I really like deck building. In Brazil, some people, like, there's some memes about me. Oh, everyone uses Rase decks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've heard this.
So, yeah, so I like when the meta changes. But for Grandmaster, it's a little bit different. Like Hunter Ace talked with you guys before about it, because here we only play against like 2 players each week. So it's different to like build a lineup for a whole field. For Vegas, for example, than for here. Like for this week, for example, I was almost submit Hunter, and then I realized I was facing Dog and Zalae, and that was a like high chance they could bring Rogue, and then Hunter wasn't a good choice, and I was also afraid of Dog bringing OTK Paladin. Then I realized that, oh, maybe Warrior, it's a good call. So things are a little bit different here than like on big tournaments.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's good insight in terms of how to prepare for a field versus individual players. TJ?
No questions. I was going to ask you about, well, I guess one question. Is there anything without... this is a bad question. I was going to ask
Rase.
you if there's anything crazy that you're brewing up for next week.
Give
with
us
the
your
buff.
secrets. What do you?
Yeah, give us your secrets. But so I'll change the question and say, which of the cards that's being buffed are you most excited for?
That's
at
a
least
good
for trying.
The 1 mana Christology is, of course, like the nuts.
That's the boring one. Luna's Pocket Galaxy is the correct one.
The shaman buffs were pretty good, and also Hunter might be pretty good, like some Mech Hunter.
Oh, I don't know about that, man. Mech Hunter is 0 and 10 in Grandmasters, but at the same time,
like not Mech Hunter. I mean like Death Rattle with, I don't know,
Ah,
some
yes.
Mech and Death Rattle.
yes,
Yeah,
the
with
Necromechanic.
the new buffs.
The Necromechanic
Yeah.
is pretty sick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will need to test a lot of stuffs and hope I can bring some good stuff here.
Yeah. Obviously, we're not serious. Mech Hunter has a lot of good results on ladder, even though it's 0 and 10 in Grandmasters. It's obviously contextualized by specialists plus the small field.
Yep.
But anyways, Rase, thank you so much for spending a few minutes talking about your win. Congratulations. I still think 3-3 is a very good record, given that you're playing against the best players in the world. So
Yeah.
good job.
It's not bad at all, but let's try to do better.
Agreed.
Thanks,
All right.
guys. See you.
Until next
you.
time. All right. Always good to hear from Rase.
Yeah, not a good thing to ask players about their secrets for the next Grandmaster.
What are you playing next week?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out a way to word that question, like as I thought of it, but I gave us some good answers. I think the Luna's Pocket Galaxy and Thunderhead are the two that I'm most excited for.
I mean, we talked about it.
4-6 or 3-6 Thunderhead, Dan. The world is going to end.
It's going to be really fun to watch, but that's just our first match out of 6. Pretty fast. We'll go ahead and take a break. Coming up next, we have our second match. It's our featured one for the day. We have Eddie versus PNC. Don't go anywhere. More Hearthstone Grandmasters action continues right after this break.